Bueno, iruditzen bazaizue, jarraitzen dugu hurrengo panelera, gogorazten dizuegu jantokian edo hola deitzekotan hor mural bat jarri degula, nahi badezue ideiaren bat edo burura etortzen zaizuen zerbait horre azpimarratzeko. Bueno, utziko dugu pixkat CARE International eta diagnostiko rapido de genero sakondu degula desente eta ikusi dugu ere interesa dagola, jarraitzeko aukera izango dugu ere beste espaziotan, baina oraingoan nahi dugu beste esperientzia bat ezagutu, ez? Luisa Dietrichen eskutik. Horretarako, Laura Mula Gallego, JK Institutoko kontaktatu dugu. Laura Mula, dago gure ezkerraldean. Laura Mula forma parte del área de formación y comunicación del Instituto JK, donde se encarga de llevar a cabo la organización, ejecución, desarrollo y seguimiento de actividades de formación en línea y presenciales, así como de la planificación y realización de eventos relacionados con la acción humanitaria, la construcción de la paz y la reducción de riesgos de desastres, entre otros. Asimismo, coordina la gestión de la página web, las redes sociales y las comunicaciones de la entidad. El Instituto de Estudios, son muy poquitas, el Instituto de Estudios sobre Conflictos y Acción Humanitaria, YECA, surge en el año 2000, coincidiendo con la aparición del nuevo milenio, con el propósito de aportar una nueva perspectiva a los debates relativos al mundo humanitario y a la construcción de la paz en un contexto cambiante influido por la globalización y sus múltiples caras. Su labor se centra en 3 ámbitos de especialización: la acción humanitaria, la reducción de riesgos de desastres y la construcción de la paz.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias por la presentación. Iba a decir buenos días, pero bueno, ya es buenas tardes. Y bueno, en primer lugar agradecer a todas las personas aquí presentes, tanto las virtuales como las que están aquí en la sala con nosotros, y también a la Agencia Vasca de Cooperación en el Ayuntamiento de Bilbao por haber hecho posible este evento. Bueno, como hemos ido viendo a lo largo de la jornada, estamos viendo que es súper necesaria la participación significativa de las mujeres en la respuesta humanitaria, y también estamos subrayando la importancia de la localización y la identificación no solamente de necesidades, sino también de las capacidades y experiencias de estas personas en contextos concretos, como ya hemos visto con el caso que nos han presentado Luisa María de Colombia, con las intervenciones de Ximena e Isadora previamente con el Rapid Gender Assessment. Y bueno, hoy tenemos con nosotras a otra Luisa María. Tengo el placer de presentaros a Luisa María Dietrich Ortega. Ella es investigadora y asesora en asuntos humanitarios, frágiles y afectados por conflictos. Ha trabajado como especialista en género en el equipo humanitario global de Oxfam, en emergencias como la de Sierra Leona, Etiopía y Yemen. Y actualmente es directora de Gender Consulting, que es una consultora independiente que trabaja en áreas de justicia de género, conflicto y fragilidad, respuesta humanitaria, entre otras cosas. Hoy Luisa ha venido a contarnos la experiencia de las mujeres afectadas por las crisis humanitarias a través de 4 perspectivas: Bangladesh, Colombia, Jordania y Uganda. Y bueno, Luisa, tengo que preguntarte, ¿quién sostiene el micrófono hoy?
Yo. Qué pena, ¿voy para allá?
Sí, por cierto, la ponencia de Luisa va a ser en inglés, así que si tenéis que coger el aparato, adelante.
Hola. ¿Quién tiene el micrófono? Este es el título de la ponencia. Voy a hablar en inglés, qué pena. So today, I'm going to share the experience of using participatory video with crisis-affected women to learn about gender-transformative change, to learn about participation, and to learn about localization. So the title goes, Who Holds the Microphone? This is a research that was commissioned by UN Women, funded by SIDA, Swedish SIDA, and USAID. This is not my effort. We were a team of 4 women, a multidisciplinary team with 2 videographers and 2 gender advisors. We were kind of rotating. Before starting, it works. I would like to share with you some reflections on the title. So who holds the microphone is a metaphor. In the smaller sense, it is a sentence that we often heard as women were setting up their videos, kind of sharing experience, trying to involve everyone, dividing work, ensuring that everyone gets heard. So if we go back to this one, we go back to the fluffy big one, right? So it was very interesting to see the discussions around who holds the microphone. But also in a bigger sense of saying it is fundamentally about power in humanitarian decision-making. It is about who speaks and who does not, who is not visible, right? In which format are we expected to speak? You come to my big conference and you speak with the microphone and you speak in English. Might be challenging, right? So in which format are we expected to speak? On what topic are we expected to speak? Or you are here to speak about WASH. No, but I want to talk about education and my children. No, this is a space to talk about WASH. So it's also very much about the topic. And finally, about whose priorities, who sets the priorities, right? So we felt that the question, who holds the microphone, is deeply disruptive of existing power structures in the humanitarian systems. It challenges on how we see the people, the women we work with in the communities, right? This idea of powerless victims acted upon beneficiaries versus active agents, right? With voice, with power, also as decision makers. With regards to the outline of the presentation today, I want to briefly talk about the background of the research. I would like to speak about the report, which is publicly available. I want to speak around 3 different sets of findings around gender-transformative change, and so many beautiful connections with the other Luisa Maria from the other panel, but also participation and localization. I want to share some participatory videos with you from Bangladesh and Colombia, but also from Syrian refugees in Jordan, hopefully, and also from South Sudanese refugees in Uganda. And I want to share with you a selection of quotes. I'm going to jump around, so please bear with me. Then I will have I've been asked to speak about challenges and critical reflections, also happy to discuss in the question and answer section, and then, of course, some closing remarks. Yeah. So the research assignment. This was a super broad, super flexible research assignment. It was this understanding that there is a gap between crisis-affected women and those decision makers at international level, often white, often male, but there is not a direct connection, right? The framework, because this is a bit too loose perhaps, the money was granted to influence the grant bargain signatories, particularly those ones working on participation and localization work streams. So the grant bargain, what is it? This is an agreement between the world's largest donors and aid providers to improve the effectiveness of humanitarian action. However, this beautiful agreement is gender blind, right? So Action Aid and CARE have published a super interesting report in 2018 of saying, yeah, the organization pledged their commitments. However, the commitments are still failing to reach grassroots women's rights organizations. They are not felt by women affected by crisis. So we have this amazing effort to change the humanitarian system, but once again, it's gender blind. I'm going to jump a bit. So with regards to the study locations, we have already explained the criteria given also to us by the money grantors was to work in 4 large-scale, protracted refugee and displacement crises, both in camp and non-camp settings, and also in urban settings, in Quibdó, Colombia, for example. So these are the 4 locations. And with regards to the methodology, so it was a traditional mixed methods approach, but here I've been asked to speak a bit more about this participatory video component. So what we did with our visual anthropologists in the team was to develop and adapt participatory video for the purpose of complementary data collection. Normally you use that to kind of work in community engagement, but this, it was like, let's try and use it as complementary data collection. 2 separate participatory videos were filmed in each location, so in total we have 8. They're all in the beautiful report, and you can click on them via link. We have been very clear from the outset that these videos are not mine, not from the donors. These videos are a creative product of 8 to 15 crisis-affected women. In Colombia, we had 2 men being part of the Women's Network and working together over a course of between 3, 4, and 6 days, I would say. So the process, everyone keeps asking about the process. So we came up with facilitated discussion sessions around the grand bargain, what is it, humanitarian agencies, changes, how were the gender relations before, how are they now, what has changed since you arrived, opportunities, possibilities, but also challenges. We would work around validating the specific research question in each context, trying to together organize ideas, work in breakout sessions, and also discussions in plenary. We interlinked this quite interestingly with an audiovisual training, which we called Making My Voice Heard. So it was about basic skills for women filming themselves and filming one another. And then we engaged in participatory, sometimes it had to be collaborative editing. So women mostly kind of deciding which pictures would go when, how they wanted to present and introduce themselves, and also signing this off. Perhaps also responding to the questions from our international online participants, The devolution of the results is so important. So we had, after each process, joint screening sessions with participants and also with the families, which was a beautiful, like they were almost film stars, on a big wide screen, inviting the community, but also the families over. But also discussion sessions after. Certificates were handed out for all participants who completed the training. Of course, with copies of the film, so they could also screen and use that. So I hope that's not too much info, but I'm happy to discuss kind of further. But quite interesting and also new to the women we work with. Oh, we've never done this before. Interesting. Okay, cool. These are our videos, so quite some ownership here. I want to leave you just a minute with those kind of images. So these are images from 4 different contexts where women work together and collaboratively on their videos. Shall I comment on them? So perhaps on the top left-hand corner, we have Colombian women, Afro-Colombian women, indigenous women working together on their participatory video. On the right top, we have Ugandan host community exploring the camera together in this videography sessions. Top to the left, we have Rohingya participants from an organization called Peace Women, or Shanti Mohila, in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. And last but not least, of course, the Syrian refugees filming their participatory video in Satari camp. Very kind of traditional way of presenting this. In total, we spoke to more than 400 study participants. The outputs were, as I said, the 8 short video films, but then also we had 9 video clips. Video clips were intended as an interview kind of session to shine a light on particular affectations. So we have a trans LGBTQ activist in Quibdó, for example. We do have 2 imams in Bangladesh, perhaps also the religion question, working against early child marriage, quite interestingly. And also kind of indigenous representatives who also not only participating in this collective video, but also having their own kind of video clips. This is a bit what you will find in the report. Just type into your search browser who holds the microphone. You will get direct access to it. In there you will find practical stories of gender transformative change. You will find direct women's voices. You will find participatory videos and clips linked through a QR code. So I imagine you all sitting in front of your computer with your cell phone. This will take you to a YouTube site where all the videos are stored. You will have context-specific analysis, conceptual chapters, but also practical entry points. Yeah. So I would like to start off and pick off where the last table left off, and really around confirming that gender transformative change emerges, is possible in each and every humanitarian context. Openings, entry points, they arise, they are context specific. The challenge is to properly identify them, to identify what is relevant to women, why is it relevant to women, and how can it be done in a smart way to actually amplify impact. And this is where I think the CARE RGA really comes in, because it asks also these questions. So it's really about identifying the opportunities. In practice, what does this mean? It can mean a series of trainings, empowerment leadership trainings, of course, the traditional way of doing things. But opportunities also arise from the context where they are now arriving. Less movement restriction, for example. New or unprecedented access to income generation. Peer support through women's organizing. Those are all opportunities and entry points to start a gender transformative process. And here again, the reference to the RGA. So it's about understanding who the people are we work with, the differences, the particularities, but also understand the situations they came from, lived experience, and contrasting that with the current context. I told you I would kind of jump around. I want to share with you the first quote up front. I'm going to read that. In South Sudan, when we went to meetings, women were not allowed to talk. But now in Uganda, we can talk. We have the right to talk. We can ask anything in the meetings. Before, when you wanted to talk in a meeting, in brackets, the man would say, no, you are a woman, you cannot talk. This just as an example how the context, the situation changes, with Uganda being one of the most kind of open countries to welcome a large amount of refugees from all neighboring countries, but also having participatory community structures in place and also representation mechanisms on 3 different levels. So actually standing for elections becomes a possibility, right? Great. And now please bear with me. I would like to share the first video clip with you, and I'm not so familiar. Okay, let's pray. So this is the religious question. So I would like to share with you one video clip, which is about 5 minutes long, but perhaps it also takes us kind of out of this room and here to northern Uganda. This is Nelly, a South Sudanese refugee leader, and I just would like you to sharpen your eyes around what changes in a humanitarian setting, and that there are definitely also opportunities.
I'm Nelly.
No sé, usted es el técnico.
A ver.
Yo hice todo lo que me dijo.
Vale. ¿Lo pongo desde el principio?
I'm Nelly. I'm married with 3 children, and I'm a women representative. All the responsibility is on me now because I'm alone. I don't know where my husband is. My mission as a woman, I feel like to educate my children, to talk to other women, to be like me, to be exemplary as a woman. This crisis has changed a lot of things. By then in South Sudan, it was men caring for us, buying food, bringing money, buying for us clothes, everything. We sit at home, but now it has changed to the women looking for food for the children to survive, even their husbands. My life changed because in South Sudan I used to stay in a fence. What we know, I have to cook for the children, I have to cater for the children. But now, at least in a refugee settlement, I'm trained to be a leader. I could talk to women, I could counsel them. A lot of organizations comes and train women on to how to do something. That's why whenever a meeting occurs, men tend to be jealous and they say that Uganda belongs to women. They don't feel good sometimes. My responsibility is I pick information from the community and I take it to the implementing partners. And also maybe if there is a distribution, if there is an information need to be given for a women, so I'll go and attend the high authority meetings, like if I'm taken to Arua to have a women conference, and I'll gather my women and I tell them how I had been with more people, UN agencies in very long distant places. They talk more about women, and I explain to them how they talk and how a woman is supposed to be. We also talk when violence happens, a husband beating a woman. This is our meeting place. This is where we meet. We could also gather women and we talk our experience sharing so that we counsel ourselves, we advise ourselves. We, the leaders, we are working for free. We are working not for money. We are helping, but we spend a lot. Maybe my food, I have a little food, a woman runs in my house, I give a support. About my interaction with the humanitarian organizations, we are called in a meeting, general, but unfortunately they don't separate women, separate, they could talk about their issues. We don't have organization that typical talks and come and talk only to women so that we feel free to talk what men maybe do to us, and maybe it could be women, woman to woman we interact. Like now I'm a woman, I put up my hand and I'll talk about the challenges the women have got. So they captured it and they give the feedback sometimes. We have many organizations that picks women and speak about their voice of a women in radio stations, but only that we wanted our voice to be put in action. Like when we say that we need a women's center, to the donors who are giving a support to the implementing partners here in Bidi Bidi. I'm really appealing in the name of the women in the Bidi settlement. If they can support us by giving us income generation activities, they can train us in different things. I cannot be educated, not going to school, but I can do something by myself. But I can make a soap, I can make beads, I can make a shoes for my own. When my voice is taken out, it's the voice of women, and I would like it to be all over the world, so that the world will know about the women in Bidi.
I'm leaving it here.
Lo voy a dejar aquí para ahorrar un poco de tiempo, pero siento que en 5 minutos tendremos todas las respuestas sobre qué hay que hacer.
Answered. Yeah. So I would like to note we started a bit late, right? I was looking at the watch. Sorry. So just to bring this home, this point was really opportunities exist. Shifts are really vivid. But it's important to understand that gender transformative changes are not automatic. They will not happen out of the blue. They need to be identified and proactively seized. The example given by Luisa around coordinating, collaborating, adequately sequencing the type of work to make them more effective, that's the way to go. One last point, it is also about mitigating backlash. The spaces for women's participation are closing. Often we see it, oh, yeah, backlash, it's an unintended consequence. We take note of it in evaluation reports. No, this needs to be firmly and squarely integrated into proposals and designs, and practical measures be implemented to address those backlashes. Going back, gender transformative change implies a shift in power relations. And Isadora said it perfectly yesterday. Shout out to you. If you are doing gender transformative work and everyone is happy, you are failing in actually doing it. So what we found in all the different stories and voices from women was that positive feelings coexist with negative and mixed feelings. Anxiety, fear at the beginning, but then it can also change over time. I want to share the other two quotes to give a reflection of this. So speaking to a Syrian refugee in Jordan who was involved in income generation projects, she was saying, if I get a chance to rest, for sure I will not say no. Let the men take responsibilities again. When probing further, why is that? Because not much has changed with regards to domestic care responsibilities. So women being completely overworked, right? So it's to see this kind of complexity ingrained. The next quote is from a Rohingya man in Bangladesh. And it's quite interesting and complex as well. On the one hand, we are not happy because women now belittle men, because the women get food from the government now instead of from their husbands. On the other hand, we are happy because when women give birth, they get help from INGOs or NGOs. They are not in pain and the children get vaccinated. So also this kind of complexity behind, but the power, I want to keep it, right? So yeah, the complexity thereof, and also acknowledging that not everything is super nice and shiny and positive. It can shift, it can change. It is an accommodation process, and we need to be prepared for this. I'm trying to make the next, the next change and trying to set this up. So we are going to jump contexts now, or go back to Bangladesh actually, to this women's group called Shanti Mohila. These are adult women, mostly married and widowed, of course, who lived through horrendous experience of, I say it, genocide. there are legal definitions, right? But when you listen to those women, you can hardly discuss that. And it was interesting to learn when they speak about their experiences back home, speaking about a very strict sexual division of labor, restrictions in movement, living as a Muslim minority in a Buddhist majority country. So they were actually saying, moving to Bangladesh, we were able to live our religion more freely. Interesting. And we are becoming more visible. We are now in public spaces because we have to. At the same time, we see the women, which from perhaps our perspective, you might question yourself about visibility. So also this invitation to question our ideas and images, right? And I'm sorry, I will need to cut it and jump because there are two parts I would like to show you. No, like I start from the beginning, right? It's also the setup is also so very important, right? Rather than just continuing.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Burma ugo Rohingya ugo Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Burma Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Burma Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Burma Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Rohingya Mayapua.
Assalamualaikum, aigo Rohingya Mayapua.
Ara olam de shanti muhilar group ara olam de kutu olam kayan puri mata hi de ara ol de ara istiri
About the office thing. Ara Burma tu बहुत दुख कष्ट गरी आरा आशी Burma तुन वाला बांग्लादेश आशी आये बात आरा की जी सरकार कुड़ा ले रहता है वाला गिरा दिया ताकि ताकि बात आरा की जी मानी जैसे दलो आरा बिरियानी दलो बात जैसे दिले माते शांति दी आरा और शायद माने दी तला शांति दी हानि बात की गरी आरा शांति रे नेला फला आरा
Ai bade ara ki yuji handi handi tagi tam. Ara to hono basana ke suna rasaru handi handi tagi tam ara jona jondolo bade bun handi tam. Handi ra jona jon buzdi tam buzdi bade ki gutam. To le hen time maze ebe madam phoche gai. Ebe madam phosi bade ki guje ara re go laptop hani laptop pa dahai. Laptop ma go di ki dekide mai handi pelin sala di diki mai handi gari sala di diki. तो मैं आरुगो मैं बतामी बिले हो हिबे रास्ते नि गरो दिकी तुली बा टंखाड़ा हिबे ये बच्चे संसारी गरो दिकी बच्चा हचो दिकी तुली बेहतर कदा देश साला फारे इन दाहे बाद आरा तो कैसे साहसचे साहस आए बाद आरा की गुजे आरा गो दिलोर सख्त गुरी वालाई महारा वालाई बापखारा वालाई तारा ससुमते हारा वालाई यार की गुजो इन खांदिले हम लौन भाइयों तुली आरा इनोले गोरिया ना yang hoira ara santi mola mazgoli ara go santi mola group bandi
begine solo ko baade ara mai hunde solo ko baade ara ki hoji asisi hoda kan desh asi ara mada bola fuani bisar gore
sahi bas
fuani bisar gore ara ki hoji begine mosara gore solo gori sasham manjar tiblo wada ara yan ki hoji asisi mara ara yan dahasiyan fata
ara tinijana guruwati Santi Mohikar guru betul, Jinu Bayu.
Santi log tuara guru betul, tirijang guru betul. Ay tuara la boleh asis maze kan dah hasil tuli. Session mai vandar gua tiblo, Sashin my friend to village as much for Sadivali. So like you Johnny Baigi to Allah. Ruangala, something more like Gurutun, Johnny Baigi, Tola, Ruanga Bible and the love of Allah. Have Allah.
Ara mani shanti mohila shashad dolo yara ara dujan mili yara ara bollo ko da jayara manchara mani ara shanti mohila to ara mani ara mati sati divana yalla ara bisar Allah ara rokalla ara.
I'm so awfully sorry of cutting this off, but again, in this small sequence, this expression of psychological kind of trauma and harm of going through a violent displacement like this, kind of you need to heal, come together, right? Before starting this fancy idea of participation. At the same time, this very important kind of drive for justice. Coming together, collecting 400 fingerprints and sending them off to the ICC, right? I would like to just jump ahead because the women worked really, really hard to then formulate their demands, their political demands, which we often as humanitarians do not really like to hear, right? But here they go.
Assalamu alaikum. Arabilandu ko shanti mular guru. Mianolde Arab demand. Eglambaram maze Arab Burma sarkar zulum ko janalo bole Arab bisasai. Dui lambaram maze Arab Rohingya bandu tun hukumata hamam maze te baraburu.
তিন নম্বর মধ্যে অন্য কমজেন দেশে বেশি চলিপুরি ফারে ইনলে আর রোহিঙ্গার ফাংশন টিন দিলে দেশের মধ্যে চলিপুরি ফারা ফুরিব 4 নম্বরের মধ্যে অন্য কমর মাই হন্দের বিয়াশাই দিবসের মধ্যে বর্মা হুকুমতে টিয়া পয়সা নলো আর রোহিঙ্গার মাই হন্দের বিয়াশাই দিবসের বর্মার হুকুমতে টিয়া পয়সা লদিয়ান নলুয়া ফুরিব
4 নম্বর মা সিটিজেনশিপ দেওয়া ফুরিব আমরা তো এটা আইনো ফুয়ানজি নইয়ে ইনো সিটিজেনশিপ তারপর বর্মার হকদার দালা 6 নম্বরের মধ্যে রোহিঙ্গা মানি লওয়া ফুরিব 7 নম্বরের মধ্যে আর রোহিঙ্গা ধর্ম রোহিঙ্গাতি গরি ভাড়া ফুরিব 8 নম্বরের মধ্যে দেশে বিদেশে যাই ভাড়া ফুরিব নিজের দেশে তো গলি ভাড়া ফুরিব 9 নম্বরের মধ্যে বর্মার মধ্যে জিনিসের জরিয়া আর বাবাই দেশে বেশি গিয়ে দিন আর ওদের করতে চাই 10 নম্বরের মধ্যে আর মসজিদ মধ্যে আছে টালা মসজিদি খুলে দিবেলা চাই
11 নম্বরের মধ্যে অন্য কমর ফাইন্ডে জিন্দিলা এলমরে ফরি ফারে আর রোহিঙ্গার ফাইন্ডে জিন্দিলা এলমরে ফরি ফারা ফুরিব 12 নম্বরের মধ্যে আর রোহিঙ্গারে বেনাকু ফুরি মন্ডুবুসি দাঙ্গা জেলার মধ্যে 5 দিন ইরদি ফেলা ফুরিব
13 নম্বরের মাঝে আর ক্ষতি পূরণ দিয়া ফুরিব 14 নম্বরের মাঝে আর রোহিঙ্গার ফাইন্ডে তো আজাদির সাথে চলি ফারা ফুরিব
15 নম্বরের মধ্যে আর তো যেত বাচ্চা লইতাম না হয় তো লই ফারা ফুরিব এতো ইন হুকুমতের বালানোর টাকা ফুরিব.
So this is what comes out when you ask women about their ideas of participation and localization, like very strong demands around justice, around citizenship, around laws, right? Yeah, I did it. Super. Just to bring this home, and I hope we can discuss a bit further, is that we found, or we actively dispel the myth that women do not want to participate. All women we encountered really have ideas, strong opinions, and also demands. However, the format of participation opportunities does not fit women's preferred ways of participating, often, I say. Or on the other hand, women participate in ways that are not expected by humanitarian agents, right? So we see that, for example, in the context of Uganda, when there are big meetings of 200 people and you have the opportunity to raise your hand and then have the opportunity to speak for 30 seconds, right? And women were telling us about the stress this creates and, oh my God, I didn't sleep because I was so nervous and then I got to talk, but I forgot 5 things and only said 2. So the issue about which format of participation. And also around, I feel also policing which type of participation. In the very concrete case of the Rohingya women in Cox's Bazar, with the strong political claims and demands, this is too thorny for humanitarians. This is, no, you're talking about something else. this can actually create violence and strife. It's not the nice participation of women that we are actually anticipating. So the claims for spaces to organize, to meet, to collect and to strategize are not provided, right? And I had here this very interesting quote from one of the women, also herself, Rohingya. It is about changing social norms, not changing what women want. Women already know what they want. They are groups of angry women who survived genocide, rape and displacement. They don't need to be convinced in their own stories. They just need to know if they speak up, they will be listened to and that they will be safe. Their passion for justice is extraordinary. So super interesting, but then what are the humanitarians talking about when talking about participation, kind of effective participation, right? One other findings was also, so the second finding here really is, it's not about a one-off empowerment training exercise. It's really for all of us to be better in addressing the structural barriers to women's participation, to create those women-safe spaces for that strategizing. And last but not least, or possibly the most important things, women need means to be able to participate. And we see it so beautifully in CARE's Women Lead program, where there's an independent budget line allowing women to do whatever they want to do and to listen to their priorities. So this can include, of course, literacy trainings, language skills, income generation. Those are the more traditional ones. But it's also flexible funds for transport, for airtime, to be able to communicate, right? Women in all contexts want a space of their own, a room of her own, right? And in Colombia, women went even a step further. In Quibdó, that particular region, after more than 10, 15 years of international cooperation, they were saying, we are tired. Like, we want to co-create. We are empowered enough. We want to co-implement projects. Wasn't that what the empowerment was all about? And still they come and bring us more and more empowerment projects, trainings, right? We want money to implement ourselves. Okay, bear with me. So we are now jumping to Colombia. Just also a small fragment in the middle of a video. This is more around going more how affected women actually see the humanitarian response actors. And it was quite interesting. In Colombia, one woman was saying, humanitarian actors? So what's that? The chalecos, the ones with the vests, passing through very fast with their cars, staying only in the urban towns, but never reaching the communities. Okay, here they go.
Señor Damari, ¿quién es usted?
Soy Damari Palacio, una hija del Chocó, madre cabeza de familia, mujer emprendedora, mujer lideresa, mujer comunitaria, una mujer que le apuesta 100% a todos los procesos organizativos, al proceso de paz y a la inclusión social. Tuve la oportunidad de parte del colectivo de mujeres del territorio ser propuesta para participar del acuerdo humanitario ya para el departamento del Chocó, y no me sentí convocada efectivamente, no me llamaban, siempre estaba pendiente para donde hubiera que ir a participar con ese enfoque de género, y no me sentí reflejada en ningún momento porque nunca me hacían me llegaban las convocatorias, habían barreras, nunca había dinero para la participación de la mujer. Entonces lo que decían siempre era, se colocaba la traba de que siempre era que los recursos no alcanzaban y que solo iban 2 o 3 personas y el enfoque de género no se había visibilizado. Entonces pienso que que no han sido tenido en cuenta esa participación de la mujer en apoyo de la cooperación internacional en el territorio. Vemos que el apoyo internacional más se ve reflejado en lo urbano, porque a las comunidades no llegan esos apoyos. Siempre hay un obstáculo porque no hay un fluido de llegar hasta allá a las comunidades. Sí, entonces es bastante preocupante. Pensamos como mujeres de acá del Chocó y más como Damaris, quisiera hacer como una observación de que hay organizaciones de mujeres que tenemos ya más de 22 años de estar aquí en el territorio resistiendo toda esta problemática del desplazamiento y que hemos logrado organizarnos y hacer parte de muchas escuelas formativas, escuelas de incidencia política, y nos hemos capacitado para poder ayudar a otras mujeres y más que a las mujeres, también a los jóvenes que son nuestra semilla, y no hemos podido avanzar en ese propósito porque no tenemos siquiera una casa de paso o una oficina donde puedan llegar ellas con confianza. Entonces nos toca desplazarnos y a veces también se nos queda muy difícil llegar hasta donde ellas están porque no tenemos un proyecto productivo que nos genere ingresos. Nosotras hemos venido haciendo un trabajo, nosotras hemos sido operadoras de cambio, nosotras hemos sido transformadoras de vida, nosotras hemos hecho puerta a puerta, hemos ido a las comunidades, hemos ido a las zonas urbanas y sentimos cómo esas mujeres nos necesitan y esas mujeres nos piden y nos dicen cuándo van a volver, necesitamos que vengan a hacernos una réplica, un taller, una formación, pero quedamos allí porque no tenemos herramientas efectivas de trabajo, porque todo se queda en las organizaciones grandes.
Mi nombre es Julia Susana Mena, soy del municipio de Medio Atrato. Mi río es Bebaramá, lo quiero mucho. Soy de la zona rural, pertenezco a Cocomacia. He tenido muchas experiencias con la cooperación internacional y una de las experiencias que he tenido ha sido el apoyo que han tenido las mujeres aquí en el departamento de Chocó, específicamente la Comisión de Género, porque me tengo que referir a lo que he vivido. Ha sido una experiencia muy bonita, pero algunas me parece, no me siento recogida con algunas cosas que se hacen, porque en su momento me he sentido utilizada. ¿Y por qué lo digo? Porque a veces vienen unas cosas muy duras, tajantes desde allá, sin siquiera mirar la necesidad que tiene la mujer. Entonces, uno que hace un trabajo rural, no es lo mismo la mujer urbana con la mujer rural, porque es que la mujer rural tiene doble guerra y es una persona que no le llegan las instituciones, no le llega ni por el gobierno ni por ningún lado. Y las organizaciones internacionales, la cooperación internacional, llegan por medio de un tercero cuando llegan, porque lo más se quedan acá en el urbano. Me ha tocado ir comunidad por comunidad a 124 consejos comunitarios.
She continues talking, and it's amazing and super interesting and highly critical of how humanitarians actually do their work. But in the interest of time, and I would like to move on. So the way affected women perceive humanitarian actors is quite different from what humanitarians would like them or like to be seen, right? So there are issues around kind of providing punctual opportunities but not sustained kind of support. There are no opportunities for longer-term partnerships based and rooted in equality, acknowledging the work, all the work they are doing, really also very unsafe types of work. At the same time, humanitarian agencies continue to rely on women's unpaid labor to do very relevant and important things for humanitarian actors. I just would like to read you the first quote. "They have us tired, running from one meeting to the next, from event to event. But when you turn around, it is us, the women, who pick up and collect the cups, sweep the floors. They do not consider us for any project opportunities, and we feel that they are using us, and we don't want them to use us anymore." This is from Satari camp. So the way humanitarian aid or assistance is delivered is still not working, still not arriving for women. And last but not least, the localized ways of participating are not acknowledged. All the richness we have seen in those 3 videos, and we would also see in the last and 4th video, are about women's creativity, the work women's self-led groups conduct, the role, the amazing, trailblazing, gender stereotypes crushing role of young female volunteers. Also the role of connectors, those people who link the communities also to humanitarian actors. For example, the Rohingya midwives we talked about, they have privileged knowledge of household needs, but they are not included into needs assessment thus far. Similarly, the work with the imams around advocating for minimum age of 18 years for marriage. Last but not least, what we found in different contexts is that women are first responders. CARE has also a very interesting report around women first responders. But it was quite interesting to see in Colombia, in the Chocó department, how women kind of rush to support those communities that are confined by armed actors and cannot move and are actually starving, right? Putting their lives at risk. When asked what would be useful, kind of how could the humanitarian response be useful to you, she was very clear, the respondent. We need a speedboat and we need a women's shelter. Both things fall outside the realm of what is actually possible in a humanitarian response in Chocó. I've been asked to talk about the critical protection. So participatory video, it provided super interesting insights, and you could delve into those videos and derive important information. But you need to be able to hold that space. If you say women lead, then you need to be prepared to have women lead. And sometimes it does not go the way you want. I would have loved to document better the process behind the participatory video production, because something happens amongst women when they work together on sharing their stories, on presenting their narratives, on formulating their demands. It's an amazing methodology of joint work. A big kind of sorrow for me is that women were so interested to see and to hear and to have translated the videos of all the other women participants, which was not possible because I did not budget for it, I didn't even thought about. So the issue about sharing information, about bringing it once again back, we thought we did our job with the film screening, right? Last but not least, so what is the impact of those stories? I'm afraid I do not know. Is this being used? Is the humanitarian responses, are they being changed? I just do not know. This is perhaps one of the nice kind of reports you find there, but the idea, everything is kind of out there, and I just feel in terms of closing remarks that humanitarian actors are not gender-neutral players. They shape and they influence opportunities. And it's not only what they do, but also how they do it, right? And I think a key step here is to listen to the priorities, the solutions proposed by affected women, and to provide adequate support because they know best. And last but not least, such organizational efforts, such as Women Lead, for example, or any other kind of community-based, grassroots-up effort is really the key forward. Throwing your way in, generating opportunities, accompaniment in kind of training for participation. I think that is absolutely key. But now it's 1:30 and we started late. And what about my women from Syria? Is there still time to have to see the women from Syria? Yes? I'm putting you in the spot of the bad cop, right? No, just let's hear into that last video. Why? Because when you ask once again, so what's participation for you, what's gender transformative change and localization, they come up with a completely different narrative. In a protracted crisis where they are stuck 7, 8, 9 years in a camp, they don't care about these questions. They want solutions to their problems, right? So thank you for the space.
عندي ولدين بحب عايشين هيك وبخايفين مثلا يلا نقعد مطول انت بدك 10 مرات تقومي عندك بالبيت وبعدين بلشي الورقة واقفة. لا شو روح قاعدين.
أنا لاجئة سورية داخل على الأردن من 7 سنين. ساكن مخيم الزعتري. عندي أولاد متزوجين ومعاهم عيال. بحسب 1000 حساب يوم إني بدي أروح على سوريا. بدهم يسحبوهم على الجيش وما فيش معين لأطفالهم ولا نسائهم.
أنا لاجئة سورية من مخيم الزعتري. تاريخ دخولي 5/5/2013. بتمنى يفتحوا هجرة لبلاد برا برية الأردن لهالشباب اللاجئين مشان المعيشة ومشان الجيش من خوفنا على أولادنا من لهم مصروفهم معيشتهم مستقبلهم ودراستهم. إن شاء الله الفكرة تصل لفوق فوق يا رب ويسمعونا إن شاء الله.
السلام عليكم. أنا مرأة من مخيم الزعتري. أنا زلمتي روح على سوريا بشغلات خاصة وبدي يجي يشوفنا صار له 4 سنين ونص مش قادرين نشوفه. إجا على الأردن تعالوا شوفوا ما خلوناش نشوفه ما سمحونا عشان نطلب من الجهات العليا إنه يسمحوا فرص إنه زيارات أو لم شمل بس هالناس اللي بالأردن تشوف السوريين والسوريين يجوا من الأردن يجوا من سوريا يشوفوا أهل الأردن. يعني مثل أنا زلمتي مش تايهين أولاده يشوفوا أولاده ومنعوا يفوتوا الأردن. نتمنى منكم إنه سووا لنا زيارات أقل شيء شهر شهرين نشوف بعضنا ورد يعني. والسلام عليكم.
جاهزين؟
السلام عليكم. أنا لاجئة سورية من مخيم الزعتري. دخلت الأراضي الأردنية من عام 2013 أنا وزوجي وأطفالي الأبرياء بسبب الحروب التي دارت في سوريا. ومنذ دخولي من الأراضي الأردنية لا أحصل على أي فرصة عمل حتى الآن، وهذا الموضوع أثر على بيتي وأسرتي وأطفالي الأبرياء، مما سبب لي التوتر والضغط النفسي. رغم تقديمي بطلبات لجميع المنظمات بفرص عمل بسبب ابني الذي يحتاج نظارة أو يحتاج لعمل جراحي، ولكن أجلناه كونه طفل صغير. أجلوه قالوا بده نظارة. الطبيب حدد له نسبة عالية بنقص النظر وحدد له نظارة. بعدم حصولي على فرص عمل لا أستطيع شراء نظارة لابني أو أي حاجة من احتياجاتهم كونهم أطفال. نتمنى من المسؤولين عن هذا الموضوع يسمعوا أصواتنا كنساء ويوسعوا مشاريع العمل للمرأة. بتمنى نسمع صوتنا. أنا يعني لوضعي الشخصي لا يدخل أبداً على بيتي أي دخل، لا أنا ولا زوجي، ولا يوجد لهم معيل سواء أنا وزوجي، وما فيش عمل، ما فيش فرص عمل أبداً. منذ 6 سنوات أعاني من هذا الوضع.
السلام عليكم، أنا لاجئة سورية من مخيم الزعتري. جيت 2013 على الأردن، صار لي 7 سنين. أنا ولادي، أنا أرملة، مالي زلمة، جوزي متوفي، وجولادي صغار وكبروا هون وعانينا. وإحنا هون نساء بالمخيم مضغوطات بالبيت، ما فيش مكان يعني تطلع له المرأة مثلا تستريح، مثلا نفسيتها بتكون تعبانة أو كذا، يعني ما فيش مكان، مساحة. نتمنى أنه يكون للمرأة مساحة تجتمع النساء فيها، يعني يحكي مشاكلهن لبعضهن، عندها كذا معلومة الثانية تعطيها الثانية، عندها مثلا شغلة تعلمها لأختها الثانية، يعني يصير نفسيتها ترتاح. ونتمنى أنه يصير لها مكان وتقدر تروح عليه كل وقت، يعني كل أسبوع مثلا يصير عندنا جلسة إحنا وهالنسوان مثلا، ونحكي مشاكلنا لبعضنا، بتفرج عن نفسها الوحدة وترتاح نفسيتها.
السلام عليكم، أنا لاجئة من مخيم الزعتري، صار لي 7 سنين لاجئة هون من 2013. عايش أنا وأولادي بالمخيم والحمد لله عايشين مرتاحين. بس عم بطالب مشكلة عندنا بالمخيم، التحرش الموجود بالمخيم بكافة أنواعه، مع أنه كنا بسوريا إحنا بأمان، والشغلة هاي تقريبا بتقدر تقولي 1% موجودة كانت بسوريا عندنا. هون تقريبا صارت 99%، إذا يعني ما بدي أبالغ، يعني صراحة إنه في كثير موجود الشيء هذا. عم بطالب فيه إنه لعله عسى المسؤولين ياخذوا حد بالسلافة هاي، توعية للشباب مشان السلافة هاي، توعية للأهل مشان شلون يوعوا أهاليهم. برضو المناطق اللي يكون فيها مجال أزمة كثير، يكون فيها فيها نظام اللي يضبط التحرش أو أي شيء. وإن شاء الله صوتي يصل للجميع وتنحل المشكلة، مش مشان بناتنا بالمخيم، لأنه صار يخافن يطلعن عبرة أو يروحن على المدرسة، أو الأهل برضو يخافوا على بناتهم من السلافة هاي، بس مو أكثر. وإن شاء الله صوتنا يصل، إحنا كلياتنا الجميع، إحنا نساء، ونتمنى كل أولادنا الخير والسعادة، وإن شاء الله منه له يا رب.
Thank you. Bueno, Luisa, muchísimas gracias por esta pequeña ventana, tanto al trabajo que hicisteis tu equipo y tú, como a las experiencias de estas mujeres alrededor del mundo. Y bueno, pasamos el micrófono a las personas que están aquí en sala o en formato virtual, así que si tenéis alguna pregunta, es vuestro espacio.
I'm so sorry for asking so many questions today, but I get the chance of the silence. Thank you very much. It was very rewarding, very interesting. I would like to know if you interview girls. Because for me, one of the key questions when you start trying to find out what is the situation, in this case of women or any other group, is when you look at the dimension of human beings when they are very, very young. And my experience is that they perceive the world so differently. Did you interview girls? Did you explore this a little bit at all or not? And congratulations, it's really, really good. I think we should make use of this much more. Of the methodology, be much more visual, much more open, much more questioning, much more challenging to our sector. We are not doing our job properly. And I think also putting the question of the dignity as the center. I think this is one of the key questions. The humanitarian sector has to be about providing dignity and rights to people. not about providing services to people. And this is what we are missing. And this, we need to make an agreement with donors, with international NGOs, with NGOs, with independent humanitarian workers. Otherwise, we will never get it, because for me, the grand bargain is so ridiculous, even the name they gave to this serious agreement. I mean, it really reflects how superficial it was taken. I mean, such a big agreement of transforming the humanitarian sector, and you call it like that, like a joke. If we really want to transform it, we need flexibility in order to get to the point, which is about enhancing dignity of people. That's, for me, the key point. So thank you, because I think your work is in this direction. And this is my comment, and my question is about the girls.
Super interesting. We did not film with younger girls. Why? Because I think you need a different, more ludic, more playful methodology, and also the issues around informed consent and a safe space to do that. However, within the publication, the report, there are 2 or 3 videos I would like to point you to of young women. And even one young man discussing, also sharing sharing kind of experiences and expertise. And I think it really adds a very different kind of nuance to it. And I did not properly speak about kind of the role young volunteers do. So a very different video in Bangladesh and Cox's Bazar of young women volunteers going house to house and doing peer psychosocial support, and what it also meant in terms of empowering kind of themselves. So please go to the publication. There are 2 or 3 kind of video clips and for young people. And I agree with you on the whole grand bargain, big things, like this absolute disconnect, right, of definitions of aspiration, but then when you ask, it doesn't connect, right? And something is missing. There's a link missing, or a step missing.
¿Alguna pregunta más? Bueno, si nadie se lanza a preguntar, yo voy a ello. Luisa, quería preguntarte sobre, has mencionado que después de la recolección de datos, etcétera, abrís un proceso para compartirlo con los grupos, familia, etcétera. Quería preguntaros sobre eso. ¿Anotáis sus comentarios? ¿Hacéis cambios al respecto? ¿O cómo funciona ese proceso?
¿Cambios en el video? ¿Cambios en el video?
Sí, en el mensaje, en la forma de compartirlo.
No, capaz, la idea, y fue también uno de los grandes retos, es lo que estaba diciendo. Estoy hablando español.
Sí. Si te dejamos un poco más, vasco también.
The challenge, no, ya se me olvida el punto. No, the challenge here was actually to allow and be able to hold the space to let women lead and let them do whatever they want to do. Like in my head, but those are the questions, and the videos should not be more than 10 minutes because we cannot show them, right? But then it's 22 minutes in Colombia because these are the videos, this is the narrative we want to have included. No, halas, I say, it needs to be the way you want that to be. So the idea was really, and it was from every context to context different. We started off in Colombia and had a truly participatory editing process. This means that we had like the whole group sitting together was super hot in a small room looking at the video, and everyone wanted to be involved in selecting how the video is called, which pictures are actually included, what statements are good. So it was also this kind of very participatory process and project. So, and it's their video, kind of they decide with some kind of guidance of what could work and what could not, but like we did not have much influence. However, in other cases, for example, in Bangladesh, where there was like one group did not want to participate, so we started to do all the job, and we had to also agree that women walk away. because of dignity, perhaps also. Like it's very important, the issue of informed consent. So we had less time, and then there it was more of a collaborative participation. It was like, I cannot afford to come tomorrow, just why don't you propose it along those lines? And our videographer then produced the video, right, and showed it to them, and it was more of a kind of proposal and then amendment, but always together with the women, I feel, yeah. The video clips is different. The video clips are kind of videos that are cut, right? Yeah.
¿Cuál dirías que fue?
Which would you say, of all contexts, what is the biggest challenge for you as a team and also for the context you were in?
Possibly the most challenging context would have been in Bangladesh, possibly, because of the circumstances, because also of women being afraid in the sense of not showing their faces, right? Afraid of what others might think, the very strong normative power of gossip. So if my face is recognized, I will be gossiped about. This reduces my chances of marriage among especially the young women. In the other video of the young women, they do not clap because clapping and the noise might be seen as kind of, oh my God, what's happening in there? So they were like waving like this at the end to kind of clap, which are all small indications of how the gender norms then actually kind of work. And perhaps also to be transparent, so this one group we worked and kind of developed and validated the research questions, and then they actually arrived for the filming, but then they go like, no, our faces, like even in full face veil, they did not want. The husbands had not authorized, they did not feel confident. There's nothing you can do, and it's very important. It's also a mechanism and a speaking out and having a voice of saying no, right?
Again. I have like a small comment. I don't want to look like bad. With all respect to the video, in the final video it was like so emotional. But in a humanitarian work, we should do like management for expectation. Like we're visiting this camp. I think they're living the worst circumstances and they have a lot of problems. And as a humanitarian agency, when you go and visit this camp, and they will do like a shopping list, let's say it's a shopping list with their needs. So management of their expectations should be the first priority for them. Like, I need the glasses for my son. Like, maybe we are agriculture organization. We should like explain this to them. Like, I need to see my husband. I didn't see him for years. So this is my point. Thank you.
I don't know. But was it a question or a comment? Yeah, like the issue about raising expectation was like very firmly embedded also in the methodology. Could you do it better? Probably, but the issue was kind of, we are in this kind of oasis, UN Women's Center, and it was like, it had 2 or 3 days before that filming actually then took place. But I hear what you're saying, right? But I find it interesting. You come and you want to speak about participation and localization, and you end up speaking about health problems and the glasses of the sun, right? Because that's the more pressing thing.
Luisa, quería... Hola, ahora sí. Quería que si puedes comentar un poco cuál es tu visión de... ¿Aló? Ahí. Que si puedes comentar un poco en tu perspectiva del uso, elevándolo a las agencias que han comisionado el research, elevándolo a estas mujeres que hacen con el video, que desde mi perspectiva muy personal, es bien difícil presentar esto como un mecanismo de incidencia porque parecen anécdotas, ¿no? Son anécdotas, es muy sentido, lo comprendemos, pero para que esto influencie mi respuesta humanitaria, pues es bien anecdótico más que representativo, si quieres. Entonces solo quería entender de tu lado, ¿qué proyección le ves a esto en el uso que se va a dar al esto?
Pues te respondo que a mí me pareció de tener tanta flexibilidad en poder diseñar una metodología, una pregunta tan abierta de decir dónde está ese eslabón que nos está faltando, la conexión entre mujeres afectadas, pero también los actores humanitarios. O sea, eso para mí ya fue bien novedoso, porque normalmente somos bastante extractivos, ¿cierto?, para hacer la incidencia. Entonces, eso me pareció una cosa muy, muy positiva. Por otro lado, la idea fue que esto se llevó a un espacio de socialización, atendieron los y las jefas de los workstream de Participation, Revolution se llama el workstream, y Localisation. Tuvimos réplica de las dos organizaciones en una sesión en línea. Participaron 3 mujeres de todas esas 400 en esa especie de intercambio. Cierra el eslabón, o sea, no, fue como una devolución de algo, un cierre, ¿cierto? Lo que a mí me gustaría, y está como para el uso público, es que, no sé, críticamente se reflexione de qué se podía hacer de otra manera. En el primer vídeo que mostré, o sea, esa mujer responde a todo, ¿cierto? A todos los problemas que existen, ¿cierto? Entonces yo creo que capaz sería como una herramienta para discutir, abrir temas, momentito, esto también nos está pasando acá. O sea, capaz como una herramienta distinta para discutir e identificar como problemas y caminos adelante. Te escucho, o sea, tú vienes del 1000 y ¿qué es esto, cierto? Pero sí creo que en algún momento encontremos formas de conectar, ¿cierto? Porque tenemos que pasar de contar talleres a ver cuál es el cambio, y el cambio desde la visión de las mujeres. ¿Es esta la forma? No lo sé, pero algún tipo de outcome harvesting, ¿cierto? De algunos ejercicios participativos, que no sea contar números de talleres o algo mixto, ¿cierto? Sí. Y si no, también como para guía de cómo puede ser. O sea, yo estaba remirando los videos y encuentro cada vez algo nuevo. O sea, es muy rico, pero tienes razón, como... Y capaz no es la herramienta para hacer incidencia con los grandes decision makers, right? Pero, no, perdón, la otra cosa era tocarles el corazón también. O sea, algo necesita tocarles. Y la idea primera era hacer un reality, un VR immersive, pero eso me lo bajaron porque es muy costoso. Listo, gracias por la pregunta.
Parece que tenemos una pregunta al fondo.
Toma este.
Gracias por la intervención. A mí me pareció muy interesante y solo compartir que nosotras ahora en la agencia también estamos en un proceso de evaluar algunas experiencias que hemos tenido en ese sentido, ¿no? De creación de vídeos participativos desde la juventud para expresar y también para poner en la agenda algunos de los temas que les interesan, ¿no? Y yo creo que en ese sentido sí podría aportar, ¿no? En el tema de, bueno, que se empoderen en el proceso porque ven que tienen capacidad, ¿no? Y sobrada capacidad para expresarse, y que luego también puedan articular una propuesta y una manera también de llegar con esto, ¿no? Y en ese sentido me parecía interesante igual también que un vínculo pues podría ser también cómo vinculamos este trabajo de acción humanitaria y de la realidad de las personas que están expresándose desde su realidad y sus necesidades con el trabajo de educación y de comunicación, ¿no? Siempre respetando, quiero decir, pues eso, toda la seguridad de las personas, el que sepan para qué se va a utilizar y así, ¿no? Pero que también podría haber ahí alguna línea de actuación posible.
Sí, súper. Y pues mi gran sueño sería ese trabajo comparativo, que las mujeres en Bangladesh vean a esas mujeres en el Chocó, o también una mujer afrocolombiana que tenía como muy famoso ahí su pendiente del continente de África. O sea, es que yo sueño que una mujer en Uganda lo vea, ¿cierto? O sea, hay video participativo genera un montón de vínculos que uno no logra a través de una entrevista o un grupo focal. Sí, pues uno podría escribir cinco informes distintos basados en esta información.
¿Podrías contarnos un poco más sobre sus vínculos?
Esos vínculos. Y más específico, o sea,
claro, o sea, al fin y al cabo es algo más personal, entras más ya pasas el rol de entrevistador versus personas, rompes como la cuarta pared. Entonces, sí. Cuéntanos un poco más de esos vínculos y luego pasamos a una pregunta que tenemos al fondo.
Sí, pues acá compartir en el espacio en el que estuve en Colombia fue muy interesante porque en el momento de uno de los talleres que las mujeres estaban sentadas y la videógrafa nuestra, como trajo todo su equipo, todo muy costoso, ¿cierto? Y lo puso así en el centro y con la invitación de las mujeres que exploren, o sea, sacar el cable, el micrófono y la cámara y con ese miedo al comienzo, ¿cierto? Y también qué es lo que significa, pues, manejar una cámara que uno piensa que es como súper costosa, ¿cierto? O sea, ahí como la cuestión de autoconfianza, quién sabe, quién no sabe, vínculos o temas de edad o también de conocimiento. Y fue también interesante porque un primer ejercicio en ese momento se hizo ¿quién soy yo? Y se hizo como un ejercicio en ronda y pues llegó el turno de una de nosotras, me acuerdo, ¿no? Y era como, pues claro, somos también parte de este grupo, pero también en algún momento, o sea, se borran esas barreras, pero también conocer también tu espacio, ¿cierto? O sea, pero en ese momento sí funcionó muy bien y generó también unos lazos, o sea, uno ahí como contando historias como muy personales, sí, de la infancia, de dolores, de emociones, o sea, muy interesante y en esos 2 minutos uno generando unos lazos así bien interesantes, o sea, sí eso. Me dice, veo el hat del 1000, o sea, uno acá como cruzó fronteras, capaz también, pero también tiene algo que ver de tener esa vulnerabilidad y también poder compartir, ¿cierto? De decir, listo, estamos todas acá y también generó algo en esa dinámica de grupo. Listo, ustedes también tienen. Y una mujer de hecho decía, es que nosotros pensábamos que todo por allá era rosa, color rosa. Ustedes también tienen problemas distintos a los nuestros, pero no por eso menos o más graves, ¿cierto? O sea, sí logró conectar esa humanidad en ese taller, te digo.
¿Teníamos una cuestión al fondo?
Nada, ahora, vale. Bueno, antes de nada, felicidades por el trabajo. Yo he tenido la oportunidad de participar en procesos así y creo que son metodologías súper potentes que dan la vuelta a muchas maneras de hacer que ya están un poco viciadas. El hecho de que simplemente se hable en primera persona, que sea una la que se cuenta y no le cuenten, creo que ya rompe muchísimos esquemas. Y creo que es una herramienta, la de la comunicación, muchas veces como minimizada, como palanca de empoderamiento, palanca de liderazgo. Tengo una reflexión también y es que creo que solamente una mujer habla sola, casi todas son en grupo. También ese cómo se van reforzando las mujeres y cómo se van animando y cómo se corrigen, ¿no? Y creo que ese poder de la sororidad también es súper potente. Y en el caso de Chocó, Creo que hay cosas también que tendríamos que coger el testigo, ¿no? Y creo que se repite también bastante que lo que están pidiendo aquellas mujeres que ya han pasado por miles de talleres, miles de capacitaciones, que la tienen clara, que tienen la agenda clara, lo que están pidiendo es que se les pase el testigo a la hora de ejecutar proyectos y a la hora de cambiar sus propias realidades, ¿no?
Y co-crear espacios,
Exactamente.
¿cierto?
Coproducir.
Sí, coproducir, ¿cierto? Y el video donde habló una mujer fue un videoclip que fue más como una especie de entrevista, pero también ahí hay 9 distintos para que los vean los clips. Pero sí, ese poder del colectivo. Sí, muy importante.
¿Tenemos alguna pregunta en el entorno virtual? Bueno, pues Luisa, ¿alguna conclusión que quieras añadir?
Para la cooperación vasca. No, continuar con ese trabajo solidario, ¿cierto? De apoyar esos procesos de abajo hacia arriba, porque toca hacer esa conexión. Y explorar con estos métodos participativos, yo creo que uno pues tiene que mantener el espacio, ¿cierto? Pero también pueden surgir muchas cosas muy nuevas y muy innovadoras. Muchas gracias.
Bueno. Pues ya para cerrar, y creo que tenemos un descanso ahora desde las 2 hasta las 3:30 para comer. Simplemente agradecer a Luisa su participación y sobre todo ya cerrar la mesa con una de las citas que mencionaba ya antes, que decía algo así como que las mujeres ya saben lo que quieren. No necesitan ser convencidas de sus propias historias, necesitan saber que si hablan van a ser escuchadas y sobre todo van a hacerlo en entornos seguros. Así que bueno, muchísimas gracias a todas por haber participado hoy.
Gracias.